No,
He needed me to call it a pigeon, and then it was like, well,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
No, it looks to
Hang
be
on just a
working right
second.
now. So I don't know why that just loaded up.
I better stop. Yeah.
There you go.
We'll roll with it.
Ghost in the machine.
Says we're live.
Okay,
Says we're live.
so
Yep.
call to order the governance committee meeting of the Troy Community Land Bank. Call the roll. Monica Krzyzewski. Here. Brian Barker.
Here.
Amy Nader. Absent. And myself, Suzanne Stone. So we don't have any minutes. So let's go to the presentation of the bylaw changes.
I'll take that one. So I believe I sent the full board, the committee, the further revised bylaws, earlier this week, and a red line back to your original version. The main kind of update from our previous discussion at the last, full board meeting was to solidify the committee structure. So as it stands now, there is an executive committee that is a committee of the board that could bind the land bank in between meetings, or if there needed to be an emergency session to approve something. However, there is that itemized list that Jamie did circulate of actions that the executive committee could not take on its own. Otherwise, all other committees are committees of the corporation, meaning that they're advisory in capacity. So would kind of conduct the same process as they do now, have their meeting, and then make recommendation on action to the full board. We did also add in an affirmative description for the A&D committee, as that was missing from the prior bylaws draft. Otherwise, most of the changes were just to better align with some of the language in the MPCL, and to kind of just bring them forward with some changes to the MPCL over the last 5 to 10 years.
Can I clarify a couple things?
Yes.
So there, in the land bank law, there's 6 items that require certain voting that we can't do in executive committee. And currently the bylaws allow the executive committee to act. And so you're not actually changing that or giving any
Correct.
powers.
Yep, those have always been in there.
But what you're doing is labeling what the committees are, whether they're committees of the board or corporation, and
Right.
basically saying every committee but executive committee can't act without full board approval.
Correct. Yeah, I think the old bylaws use the terms, standing and ad hoc, which is a more traditional description. That was used in the code probably until about 2017, 2018. And then that became committees of the board, committees of the corporation. And really the distinction is their binding power.
Okay, anyone have any other questions or comments? So do we need a motion to approve them or?
Well, since we're in governance, probably just a motion possibly to move it forward.
Okay,
Recommend.
And that's the executive or governance committee, because they're the same body since Brian, Monica, and Suzanne here today.
okay. So do we have a motion to move the changes forward? Brian,
Second.
Monica second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have any other new or old business or other business? So is there a motion to adjourn the governance committee meeting? I make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to the annual Board of Directors meeting, calling to order at, what's the time, please?
8:44.
8:44. And call the roll, Jamie Maker, absent, Van Stone here, Monica Krzyzewski here, Brian Barker.
Here.
Bob Connolly, absent, Andrew Cooper,
Here.
Tamara DiMartino.
Here.
Seamus Donnelly,
Here.
Brian Sano.
Here.
Also present are our executive director, Brad, and our production,
Whatever. The good looking guy down at the end of the
Yeah,
It'll be
Got
fine.
The second best looking Donnelly on the board.
And ours.
I'm not on the board.
Okay, so there are no minutes to approve. Oh, I'll look at that one, yeah. Okay, the presentation, of the bylaw changes. We have to, the whole board needs to have a resolution to adopt the changes. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Brian, second? I second. Any discussion about that?
I know you kind of just discussed in that previous, but so really there's no, I mean, I skimmed through it pretty much, but it looks like it's just cleaning up the,
A lot of it.
there's no real, you know,
Yeah, it really won't affect how the board works, how the committees work. It's really just kind of rolling it forward with the
Mhm.
statute and kind of tightening up some of the language.
yeah. And was there a lot of, under the annual report section, because I see a lot of red, is that,
So we, in kind of discussing with Brad, we just removed that section because we didn't want to, obviously the annual report is still in there, but it kind of worked as like a roadmap for what was in the report. And we took that section out with kind of the idea that one, we wouldn't want someone to solely rely on that. And then also, so we don't have to update the bylaws in case ABO comes out and changes what needs to be in that
Mhm.
report.
Yeah, so the ABO dictates what's in the annual report
Correct.
to begin with.
Yep.
So if they add a document, we'd have to change the bylaws to
Correct.
add the document.
Yeah, so the bylaws would not be current, so.
So
well-
really, at this point, our annual report should be governed by the ABO instead of our bylaws.
Yeah. While helpful, there could be some
Mhm.
misses there if something were to change.
and then one other question I had, I think it looks like it, but I just wanted to clarify. We're still running with where you and Jamie have the ability to kind of negotiate if there's a certain, on a property that the board kind of authorizes a certain threshold, you guys are still authorized to do that negotiation.
Each
Right.
resolution would dictate that.
That's,
Yeah, that wasn't
I don't think it's
standing, that
wrong,
was
but
per
that-
transaction
that
or
we're
per,
doing that
per
per-
sale or whatever, yeah.
Because, in order to get it to sale and to get it, first there's a resolution to get it to sale, then a resolution to accept the buyer or that sort of stuff. And then at that point, if that buyer wants to come back, the board can add that onto the resolution if it's particular to the property. Like say the person is a little low, there could be a resolution to accept it at a higher number, but then we have to negotiate or we accept the
Mhm.
exact number.
Right.
Good.
And then, some of that also, if there are services or any kind of other work that needs to be done on a property, that would really fall within the procurement policy, and those thresholds have not changed.
cool. That's all I had.
Anybody else?
And it seemed like in the one email that it was still kind of the question around what can't an executive committee do versus what they can do.
Yeah.
Are we saying because we're a small enough board that the chances are we're not going to utilize the ability to have an executive committee? Is it just easier to convene the full board?
I-
Where do we?
Think, yes, you're kind of a more nimble organization because you do meet regularly. You are a smaller board. So it may be the fact that the executive committee actually doesn't really meet to take action, but a lot of times we will include that still in the bylaws to give an organization flexibility. If something really urgent comes up, so you can just convene that committee. I would say it is more common in larger organizations, who have 15, 20 board
Yeah.
members that they use their executive committee or someone who maybe only has quarterly meetings. But again, it's just nice to have the flexibility.
Currently, our executive committee is meeting every Friday before our Wednesday regular meetings to discuss the core ideas of what's happening at the
Okay.
meeting coming up.
It's more of a planning
Okay.
function than a vote.
And that's been combined with governance anyway, or no?
They are, well, they
Same
aren't combined,
members?
but they are the same members on both
Okay.
committees.
Okay.
Okay, so, we have to vote on the resolution. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution passes. Next is appointing officers. We need a resolution. Do we need to discuss? What are we doing here?
Right, I think that the officers were already appointed just like last November or December. We had discussed, me and Michelle briefly, that if there needed to be anybody reappointed to an officer position, then this would be when we do it. But I don't think we drew a resolution for that today, because I didn't think there was gonna be
No.
any changes.
Yeah. So.
You're doing so great.
Is there like standing term for officers? Do we have to revisit annually or biannually, or is it just as needed?
So technically, at your annual
Right.
meeting, you would re-vote.
Revote.
on
So it
your-
should be done in the annual meeting.
Yeah.
If,
Yeah.
if it's been a year anyway.
And that's kind of one of the things that, you know, as we kind of dig in with you guys, what we're gonna do is kind of figure out, okay, what are everyone's terms for their officer positions?
Mhm.
What are everyone's terms for their board seats, to kind of make sure that we're appointing, reappointing,
Mhm.
asking the various appointing agencies to appoint their candidates at the
Reappoint,
appropriate
yeah.
time.
So is the plan to bring a resolution at a future meeting that just clarifies all that stuff? Is it that?
So some of the terms themselves are in
bylaws.
the bylaws.
Mhm.
It's really just kind of figuring out, like, okay, for each individual director and
Mm-hmm.
each officer,
Mhm.
when were they
Where are
appointed?
you, yeah.
Where are you in your term?
Right, right.
So
And which seat do they hold?
Right,
Because
yeah,
some,
yes.
they're supposed to be staggered seats. And in the past, I believe you guys had like tablets that said board member 13, 12, 11, well,
Yeah.
11, 10, 9. And so each seat was like, this is the start date, this is the end date.
Right.
And at this point, I mean, I think to your point, when the mayor and city council appointed certain seats, we weren't sure if they took, say, Jeanette Nicholson's seat or somebody else's seat. So
Mhm.
you're not sure if it ends in 25 or 27.
there may be some,
So on our Paris report, we've assigned them the seats, and I think that that's correct.
I think that's probably
Yeah,
without further having had that initial clarity, the best we can do, but
Mhm.
something certainly going forward is that when we have a appointing unit, you know, to confirm, okay, which seat are you in
Right.
your capacity appointing?
right. And we had so many available seats at the beginning
Right.
or middle of last year that at that point, we were just hoping that they
Like
would give us some
someone would-
people
yeah.
so that we could make some
Mhm.
actions.
But so kind of, I would say going forward, we would kind of do that ratifying resolution of like, here's, you know, the officer slate, here's, and, or if there are changes, you know, you can always, you know, if someone rolls off the board and, was an officer, you can certainly appoint, you know, kind of mid-year. That's not an issue, but kind of your general annual actions are to reaffirm your officers, so.
So should we make a motion today to,
Reaffirm?
well, to just reaffirm them?
Yeah,
You know,
yep, that's what we would do
if
today.
somebody would like to do that.
Okay, is there a motion to reaffirm the current
Officers slate.
cadre of officers?
All motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're stuck. Okay, reapprove disposition policy and internal controls resolution.
Yeah, so that's just a resolution to say that the internal controls that we already have are not
Yep.
changing.
Yeah, same with the disposition policy. So by their terms, these policies require annual reapproval by the board. So that's why we have them here. We've not made any changes to them. You know, as we kind of dig in and look at all of the policies to see where there may need to be changes, we can, you know, certainly again amend these mid-year at any point in time. But for purposes of today, it's just reapproving the policies as currently published on the website.
I'll make a motion to reapprove disposition policy and internal controls.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution passes. Now we have our executive director's annual report.
There we go. Yeah. Well, we put together a little slideshow for you guys, as you guys see. There's a book that we put together for you, which will be pretty much the slideshow that what we put together today. And just trying to go over some of the things that the ABO asked us to put in there. I put an addendum in your email, which is the land bank law and, bylaws or things that really don't present well on a PowerPoint, our financial statements. I send them this morning because I just got them last night from Teresa, but anyway. What do you think?
The Troy Community Land Bank's purpose is to redevelop vacant, abandoned, and underutilized properties through community partnerships and strategic planning. Our goal is to encourage economic growth, long-term sustainability, and new opportunities for all of Troy's residents and businesses, so that we can build stronger neighborhoods and enjoy a greater quality of life. In the spring and summer of 2024, the Troy Community Land Bank Board hired Brad Lewis as its executive director and Paul Donnelly as project manager. Both are part-time positions. Mr. Lewis and Mr. Donnelly work hand in hand with the board to fulfill its mission. In 2024, the land bank has completed several, including completion of 791 River Street, new roofing at 17 Park Avenue, 785 River Street, and 32 Glen Avenue. These and future projects are facilitated with the participation of the City of Troy and its Department of Code Enforcement. Troy's Land Bank strives for transparency and neighborhood interaction, regularly holding community outreach meetings with residents, as well as working with the Troy Fire Department on utilizing our properties for training purposes. The Land Bank is chartered by the City of Troy and funded by the Housing Trust Fund Corporation of New York City. There is no direct cost to Troy City taxpayers. The Troy Community Land Bank has already completed 4 more projects year to date and will implement as many as 17 additional projects by the end of 2025, including the Facade program and the Troy Community Land Bank strives to remove blight, redevelop vacant, underutilized properties through community partnerships and strategic planning, and return these properties to the city tax roll. In 2025, you can bank.
Yeah.
That's gonna be on our social media. So
Yeah.
we can share. it?
Yeah, we'll be presenting that to city council next.
Yeah, so that, obviously we still have a little more of the PowerPoint to go, but that video was produced and it's definitely be good to put on our social media and that sort of thing.
So will that be added to or will be complementary on the annual report?
It can go as a standalone and with the book. Either way, I think it's acceptable.
We could definitely post both
Sure.
online. I think you all know our mission statement, but I'll read it just to make sure that we say it. The Troy Community Land Bank's core purpose is to redevelop vacant, abandoned, and underutilized property for community partnerships and strategic planning. Our goal is to encourage economic growth, long-term sustainability, and new opportunities for all Troy residents and businesses, so we can build stronger neighborhoods and enjoy a greater quality of life. So you all know, you guys hired us last year, and there's your picture. So part of it is reporting who our board is, Corporation Counsel, Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah, and our auditors were Bonadeo Group, all procured through an RFP last year. The board of directors meetings, this is who is in attendance using the acronym for your first and last name. And we put an asterisk to board members who are not on the board at this point anymore. The committees, the board members that are on those committees, executive committee and governance committees, Jamie Mager, Suzanne Spellman, Monica Krajewski, Brian Barker. A&D committees, Jamie Mager, Brian Barker, and Andrew Cooper. Audit committees, Andrew Cooper, Suzanne Spellman, and Monica Krajewski. And finance committees, Monica Krajewski, Brian Santa, and Jamie Mager. In 2024, we had a few accomplishments. I mean, I think when we took over, the goal was just to get us back into financial compliance and finish 791 River Street. I think we were able to accomplish a couple extra things on top of that this year. 791 River Street was completed. We have a certificate of occupancy for the second and the third floors, and it was listed for sale. We're currently under contract for that. We have our parish reports filed for both 2023 and 2024, which we've basically been in audit since I started, which has been fun. So now that
Survived his Is the word
Yeah,
used.
survive.
Survived, yeah. No, nobody was attacking me. It's just an auditing term. We were able to accomplish 3 roofs last year, right before the winter time ended at 17 Park, Glen Avenue, 32 Glen Avenue, 785 River Street. We collaborated with the fire department at 32 Glen Avenue this year, and they plan to schedule another training for them this year. I'm not sure which building because they're interested in, enduring different types of buildings in the city of Troy. That way they get used to carrying the heavy lines through the different layouts. There's not a lot of layouts in the city of Troy, but there's different ones, so they want to get used to those. We had a few neighborhood meetings that Paul and I attended, or certain board members came as well. We just presented what the land bank could do for the neighborhoods and for the city, and they're very informative and good to hear from the citizens and what their thoughts are. We sold 140 President Street to the next door neighbor. We sold 7, 9, and 11 Park Avenue for a Habitat for Humanity project. And part of the ABO's requirements are to list exactly what we sold and what we acquired throughout the year. And that's what we accomplished today. Our ARPA status is important that we comply and get our numbers 100% correct. We're left with $38,879.27 to invest in vacant buildings. LVI year 3, we were awarded a grant for operations for the 3rd year. We don't know if that grant's going to continue past this year, but I have a strong sense that it will. Those are the amounts we were awarded for. LBI Phase 2, this is our $1.7 million grant that we've been working with to fix up the buildings this fall and winter. And we have another $1.3 million to upgrade buildings as of January 1, 2024. We've spent some of that money now. We'll get into that with the next slide. We spent $123,460 this spring. Obviously it's not for 2024, but 2025. We've spent that money. That's that list of projects that we have at the top that we've just finished. But the summer and fall, we have the facade program budgeted $180,000, and we have $1 million to go to the development of 2 to 3 buildings, with the 4 buildings on the right in notes as banked. You guys voted on the resolution to bank those. Our P&L statement, our net income for the year was $241,000, and it's probably largely derived from the deferred revenue of the ARPA grant. By spending the money, we get the revenue, and we spent the money on buildings and stuff, it becomes capitalized. So it's not a cash flow change, but rather a book change of $241,000. Currently, our properties that we have listed are listed here. I'm not gonna, you guys should read them. They're in your book too as well. And goals for 2025, we want to spend the rest of the Phase 2 grant from HCR, so that way we can qualify for another round of grant funding. We're always on the lookout for problem properties to help solve the city's problems of vacant and underutilized buildings. And then we can apply for another LBI Phase 2 grant so that we can rehabilitate them. We want to assemble the final 2 lots of 3340 to 3346 6th Avenue in anticipation for co-development, possibly with Habitat for Humanity. We want to sell 791 River Street, 17 Park, and we've already sold 3215 6th Avenue, but of course this is a 2024 report. So, and then we want to execute the facade grant North Central to invest in over a dozen properties in that neighborhood. So that's our presentation, and we provided everybody with the book so that they can look it over later. If they had any questions, we're open for them now.
I have a question. So those neighborhood meetings that you had,
Mhm.
how well received were, I'm sure that the people that showed up were well received, but how many, was there a good turnout, I guess is my question.
Right. So instead of saying whether it's good or not, because I'm not sure,
Was it a good turnout?
there was probably somewhere between 15 to 30 people at most of them.
At each one?
At each neighborhood.
Okay.
And these are standing meetings that, the residents in those neighborhoods have. So I just asked them if we could attend and present what the land bank could be, because of course we had to sort of rebuild and rebrand our land bank as opposed to what people had thought in the past. People weren't sure if we were going to last. And so I had to convince them a little bit by telling them what it can do for the neighborhood as opposed to what it was doing.
And was it more like they just listened or did they make suggestions?
They had a lot of
A lot of questions.
Okay.
And
Yeah, a lot
suggestions.
of questions.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean, that's what we want. We want more community eyes on the. what's going
And you
on.
know what, I think it helps that the community, especially community groups, understand exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because I think for many, many years, according to the people I've spoken to, whether at those meetings or just in general public, they don't understand what we're doing, but once you explain it to them and say, hey, end of the day, we just want to put this stuff back on the tax rolls and remove the blight in the city. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I'm good.
That's what they want to hear.
yeah,
And remove the blight, which.
Yes.
you know,
Well, it's also making them aware that of what our powers are,
Mhm.
right? Like the fact that we can be donated to, right? So a lot of the vacancy and blight is due to generational estates, right? Like they have no idea what to do, and instead of waiting 3 years and not paying taxes, and then the city fighting with the estate and like making it this long ass process. Sorry, you know, it's about what, you know, what's the tools and toolkit, and making sure people understand that we can be a resource for not only the government, but also for the residents as well.
And how did those residents know to come to this meeting?
Because they're standing meetings and the agenda for the meetings are sent out to a list of concerned residents already.
Okay.
So certain ones, you
So
know,
there's people that wouldn't know about it, that wouldn't have
there are people
been
that
privy, that.
would not have known about it, yes.
Okay.
But I think that the people that do show up stay aware enough where they'll communicate with their neighbors about it.
Okay.
They're the most
I
concerned
think that's
citizens.
important.
Yeah.
Well, you have an example of after one of the meetings you held, I believe, that you had a resident, Sammy Chapone, reach out.
Yeah.
Talk about put a property on the board's radar and,
Yep,
Brad,
84 Ida
Is that
Street.
the Ida Street?
Yep.
What's
so
going on with that?
that's-
Right at this point,
Well, we put an offer in.
right, yep, I
Did they
called them.
counter? Or
No,
was it just,
they lowered their asking price
that I
by
know,
$20,000, I believe, right
and
away.
that's where we're at, we're just at a stalemate.
Well, we were gonna give it a little time and then reach back out.
Okay.
You know, I can call them
That
every
price
day,
go
but they
down
might
again.
block me on the phone.
No, but I think
A gentle
I think that's a
nudge.
phenomenal example of the community outreach. So not even just making people aware, because once people are aware, you know, that's the beauty of Troy, is that those standing neighborhood groups are very involved in their areas. So they're very engaged. So I think that's, you know, that type of outreach is great. And like I said, that's a great example of what comes out of it.
I mean, I agree, I think that's like super important, because even not just landowners, but there's tenants, I don't know too much about the Lansingburg, but I know the South Troy tenants, and there's tenants there that wanna know what's going on.
Mhm.
So I mean, I just, maybe going forward, I don't know. More invitations.
we're gonna keep going.
Yeah, cause I know that there's definitely people that are interested and concerned, and they, you know, live there for 10 years, and they've got their own problems with their own landlords who aren't actually living in the neighborhood, that I think those, not that those are our problems, but I mean, nonetheless, it's good to hear from the tenants, because they're actually the members of the community that are the eyes of the community.
Mhm.
So that's just important.
I have two comments. One, like the audit, like nice job on the audit, especially with no material findings after coming out of a little bit of chaos, right? And not knowing, like the fact that the two of you walked into this upended organization and was able to write it without material findings on either audit is phenomenal. So kudos to you for that. And audits are not necessarily an easy process to go through, even on a small organization, because what people don't understand is they test things and they look at your processes and they talk to different people, and so it's certainly something to be accomplished. It's a good accomplishment. The other thing is one of the 2025 goals, and Jamie and I've had these conversations as board chair, is making sure that now that we're on our path to getting cleaned up, is making sure that we have some strategic goals as far as what our vision is and what's our mission, other than just listing out properties that we're currently having, and what does this board want to do, and how do we want to partner with the city? It was founded on a strong partnership with the city. a literally hand-in-hand partnership to be able to guide the city's direction. The city has proclaimed itself a pro-housing community. We can be a really good resource for that, especially with the ability to garner funding from different sources that the city isn't necessarily, or private development is able to get. So making sure that there is strategic relationships and partnerships with the city as well as outside agencies, Habitat, Housing Authority, to be able to provide that stepping path for residents, right? And I think that's one of the big talking points right now is how do we get people to, process through the housing components of life, right? Rental to homeownership to, all of that. So I really think that this is the year for us to kind of define what that vision can be over the next couple of years. And I would say a couple of years at a time because things change. Obviously, government changes, funding changes. But hopefully with, the city being established as a pro-housing, and once they have their vision, we can help, pull that vision with them.
I agree. I think we started I agree on the first part, well done. Incredibly inspired by the video, by the way, with what's been done in such a short amount of time. Also inspired by just everyone on this board and your engagement. It's refreshing actually being on several different boards and seeing a lack of engagement. This one here has got it. And I think we should build off of that. I think it was our last meeting to the second point that you made. We started thought it was a really good conversation about that partnership between the land bank and the city in the space of foreclosures and how we might be able to partner better. And you would love to see that, at the forefront of what we do moving forward with that vision, that 1-2 year look forward to say, how can we best partner to make to create the best output?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know on our end, we've talked about, and I've discussed with Sharon and, a couple of things that we talked about before too, but, constantly even preemptively thinking of the land bank before we even get into those property review committee meetings and thinking, we tried to think a little bit about holding certain, maybe an empty lot, because maybe that building next door is a year away from possibly coming on it, which could provide an opportunity. That's definitely a big thing on our end. And I just think, we're here, you see it with the fire department too, the way the land bank is engaged with the fire department and vice versa has been great. Same with code enforcement. So I think, like Brian said, the reinvigoration of the organization from you both to the board is just ample time to partner with the city. And obviously we're very big on removing blight, but the goal is we don't want to just knock every building down either. We want to see, the opportunity to do what we're doing here. And there's plenty of that in the city. So I think we're headed in a really good direction. I know even as another board I'm on and the executive director of the LDC, even looking at some of the commercial properties, because we have some of the similar opportunities that the land bank has on the LDC. So, any way that we can just revive these buildings and get them back on the tax roll and proper ownership is great. But yeah, this has always been, since it started, such a great tool. So to see it such reinvigorated and coming back, really great work to you both and everybody that's really on the board that dived in head first, with bringing it back. So, great job to everybody.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate both of your jobs have been masterful in the last year, keeping us on track and getting us back into compliance and back on mission. Great job.
Thank you.
And these books are awesome.
I remember when we were interviewing people for the ED job and was it executive director and project manager, and you guys showed up, and after our interviews, we were like, these guys are great. So glad that we hired both of you, and the work you've done has just been incredible.
Thank you.
So thank you.
So your annual report is submitted. Did you hit submit?
No, I have to do that when I get back to the
Okay.
office, right?
Don't forget.
Well, you mean certified?
Yeah.
Yeah.
certified.
Yeah. We had no internet yesterday and today. So,
Ouch.
yeah, but it's all there.
Good.
Just needs to be clicked.
It sounds like you have a really good partnership with Crystal.
Yeah.
Which is key.
Mhm.
I remember when she used to run the Main Street program. She's really great, and she seems like, even through social media, of which I swore off again this week. Can't even. She seems to champion you guys, which is great. I mean, because that's
Nice.
to be able to have a champion at the state level, to be able to, because it's a hard nut to slog through that process, and if you can have a good partner
Mhm.
through them and through ESD, that's an accomplishment.
Okay, so do we have any old business, new business, or other business to discuss?
I just want to make a comment. So Lansingburg School District has an opening on this board. I
Mhm.
did connect. I had somebody from the school district board, school board, reach out to me in regards to that position. So I've connected them with Brad. So, the person wanted to make sure she understood what she was getting into. So I sent her the bylaws, of which have changed, but just the core pieces of it and the website, so she could see what was involved. So she would be a great addition.
She's the potential appointee.
Yes,
Okay.
she would be a really great addition.
Do the appointees have to be, in the city of Troy,
Or their office.
No,
or their office
Yep.
does?
their employment.
Cause I think
or
we're
their-
talking about the same person, cause I reached out to her and then I think she reached out to you,
Could be.
right? Yeah. Which if it's the same person, then it should be great.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have to not say that out loud. That's why I'm talking this way. That's why I'm saying it.
Yes, she
Yeah.
So I didn't want to put her name out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
she-
yeah.
She asked for more information. I talked to her for a little while. She was concerned, she wanted to know, she's super involved in a whole lot of things, which is always great. Busy people are great people to be doing, as we all are. But I think that she just wanted to see what that looked like as far as her time commitments were gonna have to be for this. So I talked to her.
Yeah.
Make
So
sure she understood.
Sounds like there's enough connections to have been able to speak to board members. Like I was gonna offer like, okay, do the individuals want to actually speak to board members? But it sounds like they might have, so.
Yeah.
But that's also.
Yeah.
I think I had a conversation with Jamie and I had a conversation with you because sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I'll sign up for the board, but what exactly is that? Because I've been on a bunch of different boards and
Mhm.
there's been a bunch of different experiences, so.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's a good, that we did reach out to the boards instead of necessarily to the superintendents. I think that, helps, and hopefully that the person that we're talking about would be a very good asset, so.
The secret person.
Video on our website now,
Not yet.
soon to be.
Maybe you send her a book.
It was for you guys first.
Just under the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she was, I think she was concerned about the time commitment, just to make sure that she was able to commit to that.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have anything? So is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
12 minutes? All right.